It's Piet again. Now today we are looking at a Churcher sound system. They basically have a system that's working okay, reasonably, but starting to give a few problems. So I've been here a few weeks ago, had a look at the system and found there's some connectors that are faulty and need to be resoldered. And they're also having a few sound issues. They've basically got front loaded sound, so they've just got two speakers in front, and they're finding that the sound doesn't come all the way back unless they go too loud on the front. The equipment, they've got a reasonable mixing desk, no problem there. Analog system, a few settings need to be tweaked, and I in fact reset the mixer a little bit when I was here the last time, and I noticed a number of settings have creeped out again. So they have someone who is fiddling a bit, and they have called me in to have a look, do some maintenance, possibly upgrade at some stage. That's not going to happen right now. I suggested adding some full speakers closer by, so we have some delay speakers to fill the back of the hall, and possibly a digital mixer, get rid of some of the hissing and problems they have. Also, the advantage of a digital mixer is we can create a user that's locked out of most of the settings. So we can have power users that know how to run a mixer, that can have all the settings available. And once that's set up, the person who uses the mixer every Sunday will have only the settings they require to run the service. They don't need to do anything else. Of course, the digital mixer will also be expandable, so there's multiple options available to them. So, that said, let's get started. So one of the things I've noticed when I was here the last time is these cables are just basically hanging. There's no strain relief on them. And if we look at the mixer itself, you can see, the cables are coming in, they're basically just hanging, and they're hanging on the actual connectors. That puts a lot of strain on the connectors and will cause them to fail internally there. Here you can see this one is actually very tight. A little bit tighter, and I can start twanging it. So let's start by putting a strain relief in up here. Right, so here we have a little quick fix. Two little saddles just affixed with some screws, and we're now holding the cables on strain reliefs and no longer on the mixer itself. So one of our up and coming challenges will just be to sort out the extra cables here and make it neat, but we can now have slack on the cables and not strain them anymore. Right, on to the next. So here we have one of these junction boxes that one of these connections were faulty. I can't remember which one, but the point is we've probably got some broken cables inside here. So my first starting point, my first priority is to get that which is known faulty working, and then I'll go as a second step, and that which is known to be not in good condition, to redo that or improve that. You'll see some interesting connections at the back there, but we're not going to look at that now. Let's just see what we've got here. Doesn't look too bad. Okay. Right now you are my light source, so let me get you closer. You can also see, and I can see better. Let's see what's going on here. See. Right there. No, you're not going to focus on. There's my fingers in the way, are you? Not looking too bad. Not looking too bad. It's been resoldered. A little bit long. So all in all, this doesn't look too bad. I think I'm just going to scratch around a little bit and see if I see any shorts, or maybe a cable that's burnt. Just screen sometimes burns through onto one of the cores at the back, but I don't immediately see a problem here. So Let's see. Okay, I don't know if you can see what's going on there, but I found what I think is the problem. That wire at the back there is stripped quite far back. I mean, that's quite some distance from the actual connector where it needs to be. So the screen of that wire was shorting out with that. And that was then causing the connectivity issues, I suspect. I'll test it now. Actually, at the time, it could have been using this connector. As soon as I started testing and fiddling around here, that screen connector came right off. And as all of these mics are condenser mics, they do use phantom power, so they do need the screen. So that, I suspect, is what was happening, and that it was initially plugged into this connector, not that one. Right, so resoldered that connector. A few other ones look like they're about to come off, so resoldered them, make sure they're pulled out. What's a little bit irritating here is these things have been riveted in, so where I would like to pull each one out and just resolder it properly. There's not call for that right now. We have a high level of redundancy, and I don't think I'm going to do that now. So just going to close this up, and I'd like to think it'll be fine now. If it's not fine, then we'll come back to it again and do something different. If needs be, well, we can always use one of the front connectors, which seem to be soldered fairly well, and if really needs be, we can drill that out and remove it. But I would rather go, I would imagine they're not using the front connectors because of traffic. Someone walking past here would easily kick a connector, so down the side or from the top does make a lot more sense. Connectors on the top, if they're open, of course, are a nice little recipe to get dust in. As you can see with the speak-on, I think there's a fair amount of dust. I don't think they use that anymore. There's an amp that's running all the time when the mixer is on, but as far as I can tell, there's nothing connected to it. But anyway, we'll see when we get to the testing stage if the what's happening, if that amp is in use. If it's not in use, shut it down, and one can always just leave it off or get it out of there. If it's still working, they can always do something with it, or they might want to sell it off, or it might even be blown, which could be the reason they upgraded in the first place. Anyway, so this box is done. Let's go to the next. Right, we see if we can get you nice and close. Now, an interesting find I made the last time I checked. Problems here. Can't remember which connector it was. I'll probably end up removing all of them just to be sure. Now, that, can I zoom you guys in? That is a very long solder, and in certainly one of the other connectors we're getting shorts going across. So I'm going to cut this off and I'm going to resolder it so it's nice and tight. You've just got the connectors you need. The extra space at the back is asking for trouble. So let's cut that off and resolder the connector, and then do the same with these two. These two, I think I'm going to replace the connectors. The strain reliefs are off already, and one can see that the wires themselves are being pulled very taut. So let's do it. Right, just as I have these open, you can see that this one, I think, was one of the big problems when I first investigated. You see how far the screen is stripped back? That was creating a short circuit inside the plug. And this one also, I don't know if you can actually see it, but there's a nick right there that's going right through into the copper. And that, I think, is why this white insulation has been put on, to try and stop a short circuit from happening there. Also, this chassis ground is folded right back, so that's a potential little short if something goes wrong. So I'm not going to bother about that now. I'm going to replace these connectors, so I'm going to cut the whole thing off and resolder new connectors on. This one, the connector is still okay, the strain relief is still okay, and we can leave that one. Always remember that one. If you haven't got your strain relief on, they can still clip. But if you haven't got the backing on, you have a big problem. For those of you wondering, they're double sleeved. So, here a little bit. There's just a little black sleeve behind the usual hot and cold markings. So it's not, they are marked. always an easy way to remember these connectors is they are known as XLR connectors, the abbreviation for external, live and return. Pin 1 being external, pin 2 being live, and pin 3 being return. It's live being your hot and return being your cold of your balanced line. And one of these days I should probably do a little video for you on what balanced and unbalanced is, what the difference and why you would use one or the other. For now, let's look at a better connection. I am happy with that. Get the indexing right. Aha. Need to pull some more slack through. Okay, let's see what we can do there.
Cool. Got plenty of slack on that one, so we can give the cable a nice comfortable angle. So we're not putting any strain on here. This is a common failing point. Well, as you can see with this breaking off. Keep your cable too tight, this will break off. If it's a working cable, it'll break right here. Kitchen appliances and things, you roll your cable too tight, you'll find it breaks right inside the strain relief. Anyway, let's do it. Which one was it? I think it was in 6. I'll double check on the video just now. this one. There's some screens. Not too bad a state. Let's desolder this. Slightly awkward angle so that you can see what I'm doing. But you know, I've worked in worse angles before. And just by the way, there is a bit of misconception. This is actually a chassis screen. It's not. That's your signal screen. It must be connected. For the most part, your chassis screen remained unconnected. And there's specific times when you do it, but to tie your chassis screen to your signal screen always is often a good way to introduce extra noise into your system. And a lot of buzzing and humming can be attributed to incorrect connection of the screen. The watch has just had a big moment. Okay, so that's this little junction box. That's the main bit sorted. Let's see what's next. Maybe get a cable tower too and just neaten all of this up a little bit.
Okay, so this box is fine for now. I'm happy with that. And just remember, the one thing I haven't shown you is, and I've also not quite prepared for it, so that's probably tomorrow or another time's work. Right, so in the cryo room there is a little volume control, which is, speakers are actually on. You can probably hear the buzzing and the scratching. Very intermittent, very bad signal. Now that feels like a small pot that's too low power for the actual speakers themselves. So there we need to come in and change that out. I usually put a switch with some fixed wire wound resistors so that you can just have switched positions and you don't have to scratch. The pot does fail after a while. It's very common with these types of volume controls. Okay, here's an interesting discovery. When I looked at the speaker, it turns out to be a active speaker, so it gets power and signal fed into it. And the volume control is actually looks like a modification into the unit itself. I thought these wires looked very thin. They then go to the volume control unit I've just shown you, if the camera will focus. So that is the volume control and how they work that. I think I want to change that. I think I would rather, if we're doing that, put a volume control in line with the signal cable rather than modifying the internal speaker. I need to find out what they did. Let's see. So here is that inside of that volume control. Unscreened, thin wire. I think I know why we're getting quite a buzz on there, and this part will become dirty, which is why it's so scratchy. So I think let's have a chat to them, see if we can get them to change, if they're happy to change the way it's running at the moment. Okay, so back at the mixer, I just want to tidy up some of this, get this cable out the way. What do you say we make a new cable for them? They have a wireless receiver, and obviously they're nervous about putting, or whoever entered the installation is nervous about putting phantom power into the back of the microphone receiver, so they use an unbalanced cable which then is snaking across all the knobs and dials, and I find it annoying. So I think I'll just make a longer cable for them so this can go out the way, and then we'll see what we can do to clear this clutter, which is now a little bit extra now we've got the strain reliefs on. See what we can do to neat and tidy here. Just realized some of you might not know. Phantom power is a system by which the mixer is actually putting out a 48 volt DC signal into the signal cable. A lot of condenser mics have got, and certain other equipment, have got a little power supply inside with an amplifier, and that gets power from the mixer. Now, this mixer has got global phantom, which means if you switch phantom power on, it is on all of your microphone inputs. So some equipment can become really unhappy and blow if you put phantom power, if you put 48 volt up the wrong side of them. This is not a very high-end wireless mic, so I'm assuming it's fine. It should be, most professionally rated equipment should be able to take phantom on the input. It's not affecting it in any way. It's a minor design issue to just put two capacitors into block phantom, but I'm not going to take a risk. This obviously, whoever put it in is nervous of phantom going back into it, so I'll respect that. I'll keep the same and just make a longer cable. I've got a bit of cable that's a little bit longer, not the best length, but this is basically just neatening and tidying. If they were to go for a digital mixer, this cable will go flying, and I'll put a proper XLR in for it, because on the digital mixer we can control phantom to any channel. So let me make that cable. Okay, so we've got a cable in. Not much better, but it is at least better. It is out of the way, and now just need to neat and tidy all this wiring a little bit, and then I can go into system tuning. Now I can't show you the system tuning because you are looking through my system tuning sound source, and also that microphone is not that accurate, so I wouldn't trust that to give you a good representation of what the sound sounds like. So I'm going to wrap it up now for you. Might bring you in a bit later, but I think we're going to wrap it out and call it quits. Basically the sound system is overhauled. I'll do tuning. I'll come back to you if there's anything major that I find. Probably just EQ settings, gain structure. Gain structure on this thing is not very good because there's quite a bit of hissing if we turn the mains up. So just reset the gain structure, neat and tidy, and that's it. Thank you for looking. Comment, subscription, all of that is welcome, and I hope you enjoyed it. Okay, so I thought I'll just show you quickly. I've got things a little bit more neatened up. Mains are sorted, I know what's going where. I've got the aux down, so basics are done, and it's a bit neater.